Good evening. The patient is sick, the prognosis is guarded, and apparently the only prescription helpful is money. That, in a nutshell, is the story of the Idaho State University Pharmacy School. The pharmacy school in Pocatello, once considered one of the best pharmacy schools in the entire country, is facing possible loss of accreditation soon, which really means that students going to that school won't be able to find jobs if they graduate. That means Idaho could be in trouble as well in supplying the needed number of pharmacists in this state. But it also means, to some at least, further deterioration of quality and prestige in Idaho higher education. Almost every one of us have heard the complaints from higher education officials in Idaho about a lack of money to finance university programs. Well, this might be the best example yet of just how tight budgets really affect things. We begin tonight with producer Paula Whistle in Pocatello.
Stress formula with zinc and with iron and plain.
Okay, and do you have the Fergon iron pills?
They should be on the bottom shelf there, I think.
Chances are, if you've been to get a prescription filled in Idaho, the pharmacist who helped you was a graduate of the Idaho State University School of Pharmacy. Close to 75% of the state's pharmacists went to ISU's pharmacy school. But that could drop dramatically in the future, and Idaho could be put in the position of having to recruit its pharmacists from outside of the state.
So big can we take it?
Now this is 50 milligrams of all the B vitamins. That's should be good.
The reason is that the state's only school of pharmacy, one that was created by legislative mandate in 1927 and holds the distinction of having offered the first baccalaureate degree on the Pocatello campus, is now facing possible extinction. The problem the school is confronting is the same one being experienced by all schools in the state: lack of adequate funding. And in the case of the College of Pharmacy, that translates to mean inadequate faculty, research, and facilities at a time when other such programs in the nation are changing and expanding to meet the needs of a rapidly evolving field of pharmacy.
We've had to essentially give up research. And without that, we also have a very difficult time recruiting new faculty. First of all, our starting salaries and the salary levels that all faculty receive here is 30% below national equity. We literally have to compete with 71 other colleges of pharmacy for faculty positions. So we have very few applicants and very few candidates that will come here. And then without a research base, they simply say we cannot come to Idaho.
There are great concerns amongst the faculty, myself included, for the viability of the program in the future. And as a result, that hasn't helped morale here very much. I think that the people that are here are deeply committed to pharmacy education. And when the faculty is responsible for very, very heavy teaching loads, it's extremely difficult for them to find time to do research, to write grants, those kinds of things. And that, in addition, doesn't help faculty morale. People on the faculty are scientists. Doing research is part of keeping current in your given discipline. And faculty feels very strongly about that should have the opportunity to do research.
Up until this year, we've never had academically qualified students transfer to another school. They've been satisfied with our program, satisfied with the university. During this year, we've received a request for 5 or 6 students to transfer already, and we have indication that 8 or 9 additional students have also applied for transfer. We will not know until this fall whether those students will actually go through with that. They have been concerned because of the publicity about the school and its lack of funding, and they're concerned about the quality of the education they're receiving. We simply can't provide that same kind of education that they can see that it's very obvious to them that they can receive at another school.
The school has been put on alert by the American Council on Pharmaceutical Education and warned that if things don't improve dramatically, the school will lose its national accreditation by 1986.
We were placed on unannounced probation in 1982. That persisted for 1 year with the promise that we would do make definitive improvements, increase number of faculty, and improve our program. We have been unable to do those things that we promised them that we'd do because of these cutbacks during the last 5 years. One of the other criticisms was this building. This building was erected in 1942, but it has never been remodeled or renovated to meet the changing needs in pharmacy education. So that's our problem. We are
So how much time do you have to get
we
this
have literally now less than 1 year to show evidence that this state is committed to pharmacy education and is willing to put the extra money into it.
The impending threat has members of the State Board of Pharmacy worried, who say that if the school loses its accreditation, they will no longer be able to license its students.
No, we would have, as a board of pharmacy, we would have no choice but then to declare graduates of this institution not eligible to sit for the state board examinations.
According to a paper prepared for the university by the college in December of '83, the only way to preserve the College of Pharmacy is to double the budget and the faculty size over the next 5 years, which would mean adding $750,000. In the same paper, called A 5-Year Plan for Survival, the introduction reads, "This is a plea to be heard and a cry for help that Idaho State University does not lose one of its proudest traditions." But according to Dean Hilliard, as of yet, almost no one has responded to that cry for help.
No one is listening, as far as I can tell.
The Dean of the Idaho State University Pharmacy School is with us now. Dr. Ira Hilliard has taken it upon himself in the last couple of weeks to raise the cry that his school is in danger of ceasing to exist, really. Dr. Hilliard joins us tonight from Pocatello. Dr. Hilliard, you said there at the end of that videotape piece that no one seems to be listening. Why is that?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I really don't know. Given the status of the College of Pharmacy at this institution, the fact that it was created here by legislative law, that it literally served as a nucleus for the development of what we now visualize as Idaho State University. It's beyond me to understand why the pharmacy program was never given the adequate support that it required, particularly since the mid-60s.
When you say no one, I believe you told our producer, Paula Whistle, that not even the administration really of your school has been taking this seriously.
That's correct.
And by that I take right up to the president, Dr. Coulter.
Yes.
This situation, I take it, and the possible lack of accreditation now, the situation has developed over several years. You said in the videotape it goes back to maybe, what, 5 years ago or even longer than that?
Oh, much longer than that, really. We haven't had an emphasis on pharmacy placed on that program by this university or by the state literally since the 1960s. The last additional faculty position which was allowed for this program by separate funding was in the 1960s. In the mid-1950s, in fact, the support for this university, particularly by the university administration at that time, was so poor that the college lost its dean, a very effective individual, and most of the faculty, they went to California and established a new college of pharmacy. So we really haven't had that support that we've needed in order to maintain and keep up with the very dramatic changes in what we must do to educate pharmacists, literally since 1960.
But I take it in your view that's become even more serious in the last 5 years or so.
Very much so, because by the time that the economic recession hit us and the cutbacks began to pile up on higher education, our budget was in such terrible condition that we were unable to do anything about it. We had no cushion whatsoever, and even though we didn't lose faculty during these recessions, we were unable to make those tremendous adjustments that we needed to in order to maintain accreditation.
And accreditation, as the videotape pointed out, is really absolutely critical to the success of the students in the pharmacy program at ISU.
Yes, it's very critical. A student, by law, must graduate from accredited college in order to be permitted to take the state board examination, not only in this state, but in every other state. So they're literally prevented from practicing and working as a pharmacist.
How many students did you graduate this year?
38.
And so what would your average, say, enrollment be in the pharmacy school at this point?
In the last 3 years, the primary professional years of the curriculum, we're averaging about 35 to 40 students in each year. That's below the number of students that we should be educating right now just to meet Idaho needs.
So between 140 and 160 students at any one time
That would be
pharmacy.
optimal.
Okay. Let me just ask you quickly about your faculty situation. As I understand it, you have 3 positions open in the faculty right now and basically are having a whole lot of difficulty filling those jobs.
One of those positions we've advertised for over a year and still haven't gotten it filled. Our problems, as it was indicated in the introductory piece, is not only low salaries, it's the inability to allow these young faculty to come in and establish research careers and have a program of professional development. So they literally reject most of our offers. We used to get, back in the early, 10 years ago, when we had a vacancy, we would get 50 or 60 applicants. We now receive only 4 or 5, and most of those applicants aren't qualified.
Let me just ask you finally and quickly, what would it take to fix this situation?
Well, we would need an infusion of at least $750,000 additional into the program. What we're doing...
Would that have to, excuse me, would that have to come all at one time?
No, as long as there was a firm commitment that we would do that over a period of time that would be close enough so that you could maintain your program, continue it, and maintain the quality. What we need to do is start this right now. We can't wait for much longer. We need to show that we are committed to this program, that we are going to provide it, and we're going to provide it adequately, even though it may take us 3 or 4 years to come up to equity with other schools.
I hear you. We'll come back, Dean. Thank you. Another view of this now from a member of the State Board of Education. Mike Mitchell is the board member assigned specifically to Idaho State University. Mr. Mitchell is from Lewiston, and he's joining us tonight from Moscow. How serious is this situation in your view, Mr. Mitchell?
It's extremely serious. Dean Hilliard has said it very clearly and very loudly, I hope. Unfortunately, what he's saying now somehow is that information has been shielded from the Board of Education, and in like manner, the Board of Education has allowed the legislature to be shielded from this problem.
How has that happened?
I don't really know, Mark, but having served with Senator Little on the Joint Committee, I don't believe we've ever had a crisis presentation that I can recall on the College of Pharmacy problem at Idaho State University. We've known it's there, we've talked about it, and we're talking about it more now, but we're doing nothing.
Is it Dr. Coulter's responsibility?
Well, you know, for a long time, and you don't pass it doesn't do any good to pass the blame to Dr. Coulter, even if he were staying, and he's leaving for another position. But for a long time, one year the public schools would get an adequate appropriation, and then the next year colleges and universities. And we went this way, and the institutions learned how to live with that type of funding. Well, then we went for a period of years in which college and universities did not get adequate funding, at least in their mind eye, but they kept waiting, well, next year, and next year, and even this past year, the year where the legislature of 1984, everyone thought this is college and universities' year. Well, with all the circumstances and everything that happened, it was not college and universities' year, and betting on the come has got us in even more serious problem with all of the activities, but particularly the pharmacy program at Idaho State.
Of all of the, and I know as a member of the state board, you can point to a lot of problems that you see in higher education in Idaho. As we sit here tonight, is this the most serious, pressing problem?
Well, it's an interesting thing about this one. It has to be considered because it's the one that does supply the jobs, it fills the jobs that are required in Idaho. We would have to look outside, and that's not good when we can't employ our own educated young people. But the Idaho legislature established this school at the Idaho State University. And every time we've changed the name of the school, it's been reaffirmed that the College of Pharmacy would be located in Pocatello, Idaho, at Idaho State. But an interesting little line in that statute, and that's Idaho Code, that's the law, it said, it shall be maintained at the standards as they are now or as they hereafter may be by an accrediting council or an accrediting agency. We are actually in violation of the law. We have not kept it to the state of the art. That's a board responsibility and a legislative responsibility. We haven't met it.
So just quickly, what should the legislature do? What should the state board do?
Well, the state board has got to find out more about it. First of all, so that they can present the complete case to the legislature, the joint committee. With Dave Little on your program today and being a co-chairman of that committee, perhaps he will ask his staff in the interim between now and next January to look in and be able to supply even additional information. But like the Department of Corrections last year, the legislature has to know more, understand better what the problem is, and the board has a responsibility to bring that message to them.
Mr. Mitchell, we'll come back, sir. Thank you. As Mike Mitchell suggests, we have another look at this situation now from an influential member of the Idaho legislature. Republican Senator David Little is the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. That committee, of course, is one that appropriates money for the state's higher education programs, among other things. How serious do you think this situation is, Senator?
Well, from the way it's been explained by Dr. Hilliard and Senator Mitchell, I think it's very serious, and it really disturbs me, and I think Senator Mitchell brought it out, that I don't recall any time on a joint committee where they have come in and really made a plea for the pharmacy appropriation. And I checked with some former graduates of the school, and they were very proud of the reputation that the pharmacy school at ISU did have over the past. And it really bothers me, and I don't know, it's real easy here to try and put the blame on someone. I think that now the problem has been identified, and I will surely follow up with Senator Mitchell's suggestion is to get the staff to go right in and try and find out what we can do and what will take to resolve that, because to me it is very, very serious. And I remember years ago when I was going to the University of Idaho and they were talking about making it a 4-year school, and they said, well, give them the School of Pharmacy. And here we thought we had one of the best in the nation, and I thought it still was.
So this is all really sort of news to you.
Well, it sure is to me, and that might be part of a lot of it my fault. But, and I'm a little concerned because, you see, within the last 3 or 4 years, we've introduced the dental program at ISU, and why we would take a real good program, ongoing program, and neglect it, and then come in with a new one. And I don't know how we can get a handle on that, and whether it's the legislature's job or the state board, I assume it's all of us' job to go in and, I guess for a better term, a performance audit. I think that we have a tendency as legislators to go ahead and we'll introduce programs and we'll fund them, and then we have a tendency to forget them. And, you know, here we want quality education. Maybe we're better off with less. We're going to have to...
Well, as a practical matter, isn't that the responsibility of the state board and the administration of those schools to let you know how well those programs are performing?
Well, that'd be an easy way for me to get out of it, but we have a staff up there in the fiscal office that should be finding out and getting us information to it. I don't want to place the blame on either the state board or ISU. Now we've got the problem. The thing is now is to concentrate our efforts on an amiable solution to the problem.
Well, let me just finally ask you about that solution. The budget, the pharmacy school is around $700,000 now, and you heard Dean Hilliard say that it might take a doubling of that over the next several years to do what needs to be done. Is that realistic?
That, I guess, here I said, well, I'm going to pass the buck, and I'll turn around, it'd be the state board. That's less than 1% of the state board's appropriation. And they have a lump sum appropriation. They have those guidelines. But I think that the legislators from that area, the state, and all of us need to really try and get to the bottom of this, because and then either we want a quality school or abandon it, one of the two. I don't think that we want to go along, and I am concerned that we're doing more and more of that, is that we try and introduce new programs, and of course part of it has been the influx of federal money that came in, and we jumped on the bandwagon to get the federal money. Then they backed away, and then we wind up with mediocre programs. I don't think this is the case in the School of Pharmacy, but I think it is in the dental program.
Let me go back to open this up and invite all you gentlemen to get back in. Dean Hilliard, Senator Little seems to be suggesting that the options really are to spend the money or to shut the school down. Are those the options?
That is precisely the option right now. We really don't have any other options. We could lose our accreditation again as early as next January. The Accreditation Council is not very happy with the amount of progress which we've made, which is practically nothing, because we haven't had the additional funds that we've needed to do those things that we promised them that we would do in 1982.
So your message, I take it, to Senator Little and Mr. Mitchell here both would be, if you're going to do something, you better do it quickly.
At least have some kind of concrete evidence that the state will back us rather than let the school close.
Mr. Mitchell, how about that?
Well, I agree. In fact, we all seem to be agreeing that we're going to have to do something. The bottom line is going to be that money, and I don't know that any of us can answer that. The Board of Education has had a group in the state of Idaho doing what they call an external audit. They are people from the outside, professionals in the academic area. One of those professionals was a person I think Dean Hilliard will agree with, was an exceptionally outstanding person in pharmacy. In September, the Board of Education will get their report, and I can tell you that it is going to be saying the same things, I can't tell you how, as we've been saying. That is, you either must fish or cut bait with the College of Pharmacy at Idaho State University.
Well, let me ask you, excuse me, just let me interrupt to ask you about this money question. I think I heard Senator Little say that basically the board could shift the money around within its own budget.
Well, yes, it could. The board, I believe, would feel that we would have to take it from someplace else. Now, if you want to target, as the senator has mentioned, the new dental program, you could also target the new WWAMI program or the new vet medicine program, new agricultural research programs. You could look at a lot of things and say, well, those came after College of Pharmacy and they should not have, or we should take a good look at them. But it isn't as simple as that, because we can't simply go in and say, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it, because then something else would slip away.
Senator?
Well, I agree with what Senator Mitchell said, but the problem is that there isn't any way that we can commit the next legislature. We don't know the make of it. I don't know whether I'll be back in the legislature. And so we're really betting on the next legislature to really help the state board solve the problem. What I was referring to more is an interim thing to hopefully to salvage an ongoing program that has, to the best of my knowledge, has been very successful in the state of Idaho. And hopefully that in the interim, and I think that the legislature, when they're faced up with the problem, and they're going to have to do, as Dr. Hilliard reiterated what I said, is that they're either going to have it. We either want a quality program or we don't want it, one of the two.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Could I make a suggestion? We'll get a report in September. I believe that the legislature, the Joint Committee, would probably be meeting between then and the first of the year, before the regular convening of the legislature, that we share the information of that with at least the leadership of that committee and its staff.
The leadership of Senator Little's committee.
Yes, the Joint Committee. In January, I would sort of hope that the Accrediting Council would come in and would place us on some type of non-accreditation. They would tell us what it is we had to do. Now, the legislature's there in January. If there was enough advanced work done, could we ask for a supplemental? and say, okay, this is what we plan to do now, and then we will go into a long-term project. Keep in mind, right now, the code says, and we have failed to do it as a government, that we must keep it up to the standards of accreditation as they were or as they may be.
I hear what you're saying.
And we haven't done it.
Dr. Hilliard, would that be good enough for these folks who are going to do the accrediting?
I think that would work out very well. I think they would be very glad to work with us. After all, their mission is to maintain the quality of pharmacy education. They realize that we need quality pharmacy education out here as well as they do in the East. I think we could work with them. They will work with us, and I think they would, if they could see that the state is willing to maintain this excellent program, then they would give us that kind of cooperation.
Sound like a good plan to you, Senator?
Well, I think it's the only one, and I sure don't see anything wrong with it and want to give it my wholehearted support.
Let me, Senator Mitchell, former Senator Mitchell, ask you
Whatever.
finally, if this is likely to be maybe just the first sort of crisis situation that we're going to see from schools in Idaho that are accredited, where accreditation means so much to the students, are we going to see other situations like this develop?
We may see them, but I would hope we would handle them better. One of the things that the word was mentioned earlier as to whether the system has been shielded from the problem for Lord only knows what reason. The Board of Education, in my opinion, and this is only mine, has got to spend more time talking to the deans of the various schools when they're on the campuses, provide time to know what is going on in the various colleges of our universities in the state of Idaho. It's my understanding that they have not talked to the deans at the Idaho State University since 1976. That's not right.
Dean Hilliard, let me go back to you finally here. You've heard two very influential men in this state on the subject of higher education. Do you feel any better after hearing what they've said about the future of your school?
I feel better now than I've felt in 15 years. I think finally someone is listening to what we've been trying to say.
Well,
and it's excellent.
We'll see how it turns out. We appreciate your joining us tonight in Pocatello, Dr. Hilliard.
Thank you,
sir, very much.
Thank you very much.
Mike Mitchell in Lewiston, we thank you for joining us too.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Mark.
And Senator Little, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark.
That's our time for tonight. I'll be off on assignment tomorrow covering the State Republican Convention. Gene McNeil will be sitting in here with the latest results in our Idaho Opinion Survey. We've sampled how Idahoans are feeling about the political races this year and also how they're feeling about the question of wilderness. We'll have those numbers for you tomorrow night, and I'll have some analysis of the numbers from the State Republican Convention in Sun Valley. I'm Mark Johnson. Good night.
The funding for this program is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Friends of 4, 10, and 12.